Imagine living in your own home for 13 years, knowing that something evil is living there with you, something that hates you, something that wants to destroy your family. You can't escape it. You can't fight it. And when you finally gather the courage to leave, it follows you. This isn't a horror movie. This is what happened to the Smurl family in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. From 1974 to 1989, Jack and Janet Smurl and their 4 daughters lived with a demon, and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators from the Conjuring movies, called this one of their most difficult cases. 4 exorcisms were performed. None of them worked. This is the true story of the Smurl family haunting. And I'm warning you right now, this is going to be the most disturbing thing you've ever heard. Let me introduce you to the Smurl family. Jack Smurl, a U.S. Navy veteran who worked as a production manager for Topps Chewing Gum Company, a hard-working man, a devoted father. Janet Smurl, his wife, a loving mother who just wanted to give her daughters a good life, and their 4 daughters, Dawn, Heather, Shannon, and Karen. The Smurls were a close-knit Catholic family living in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They went to church every Sunday, prayed together, were active in their community. They were, by all accounts, good people. But in 1972, Hurricane Agnes devastated their area. Massive flooding destroyed their home. They lost almost everything. So Jack's parents, John and Mary Smurl, decided to help. They found a duplex for sale in the nearby town of West Pittston. It was a fixer-upper, but the price was right. $18,000 for both sides of the duplex. The plan was simple. Jack, Janet, and their 4 daughters would live on one side. John and Mary would live on the other side. 2 families, 1 house, a fresh start. In August 1973, the Smurls moved into 328-330 Chase Street. It was a beautiful street, quiet, middle-class neighborhood. The kind of place where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved hello. The house itself was old, built in 1896. But it had character, history. They were excited to make it their own. And for the first year, everything was perfect. Jack got promoted at work. The girls were excelling in school. John and Mary were happy living next door. Life was good, and then, in 1974, things started happening. It started small, easy to dismiss. Jack was doing repairs on the house, repainting walls, fixing plumbing, updating electrical. He'd put a tool down. Turn around, come back, and it was gone. He'd search everywhere. Then hours later, the tool would reappear in a spot he'd already checked, just sitting there. Okay, he thought, I'm just tired, forgetting where I put things. But then the walls started acting strange. Jack and Janet repainted the entire house. Fresh, clean coats of paint. The next morning, old stains had seeped through. Dark, water-like stains and patterns that looked almost intentional. They painted over them again. The stains came back, and then the kitchen appliances started catching fire. Janet would be cooking. Everything fine. She'd leave the room for a minute. Come back. And the toaster was on fire. But here's the thing. It wasn't plugged in. It happened with the coffee maker, the blender. Appliances that were unplugged would suddenly burst into flames. And then the smells started. Horrible, overwhelming smells. Rotting meat, burning flesh, sulfur. The smell would fill the entire house for minutes, sometimes hours. Then it would just vanish, like it was never there. The Smurls tried to stay rational. Old house, they told themselves. Probably plumbing issues, electrical problems, nothing paranormal, but deep down, they knew something was wrong. Because at night, they would hear footsteps, walking through the hallway, up and down the stairs. Across the attic floor, Jack would get up to investigate. Nobody there. Mary and John, Jack's parents on the other side of the duplex, they heard it too. Heavy footsteps, deliberate, like someone was pacing, and then the voices started. Mary Smurl, Jack's mother, was alone in her side of the house one afternoon. She heard Janet calling her name from the other side of the wall. Mary, Mary, can you come here? So Mary went through the connecting door to Janet's side. Janet wasn't there. Nobody was home. Janet experienced the same thing. She'd be in her kitchen and hear Jack and his mother arguing. Loud, angry voices, screaming, cursing. She'd rush over, and they'd be sitting quietly, having tea, calm as could be. They hadn't been arguing. They hadn't even been talking loudly. So whose voices were they hearing? The daughters started experiencing things too. Shannon, one of the middle daughters, was in her room doing homework one night. She heard scratching in the walls, like fingernails dragging across wood. Coming closer, closer. She ran out of her room screaming. Heather woke up one night to see a shadow standing at the foot of her bed, a tall, dark figure, just watching her. She pulled the covers over her head and prayed until morning, and then things escalated. In 1985, the annoying disturbances became violent attacks. February 1985, Janet was alone in the basement doing laundry. She heard her name called. Janet, a woman's voice, soft, almost sing-song. Janet, Janet. She looked around. Nobody there, and then the temperature dropped. She could see her breath in the air. In February, in a basement with a working furnace, it suddenly felt like a freezer, and then she saw it, a black mass. About 5 feet tall, human-shaped but wrong. No features, no face, just darkness. It materialized in front of her, solid, real. Janet screamed and ran upstairs. But here's the terrifying part. The black figure followed her. It moved through the wall between her side of the house and Mary's side, and Mary saw it too, the exact same figure, black, featureless, staring at her. From that day forward, everyone in the house started seeing it. The black mass would appear randomly, in hallways, in bedrooms, standing in corners, watching. And then the physical attacks began. The family's 75-pound German Shepherd was in the living room one day. Suddenly, the dog was lifted off the ground by nothing and thrown across the room into the wall. The dog yelped in pain and wouldn't go near that side of the room ever again. Shannon was walking down the stairs one afternoon. Broad daylight. People in the house. Invisible hands grabbed her and pushed her. She tumbled down an entire flight of stairs, bruised, shaken, terrified. And then came the incident with the ceiling light. Karen, the youngest daughter, was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. The ceiling light fixture above her started swinging, violently, back and forth, faster and faster, and then the bolts ripped straight out of the ceiling. The heavy fixture, installed with thick 14mm bolts drilled into hardwood, came crashing down. Karen dove out of the way, missed being hit by inches. That's when Jack and Janet realized the truth. Whatever was in their house wanted to hurt them. As the months went on, the attacks became more personal, more horrifying. Jack's mother, Mary, suffered a massive heart attack in the house. Doctors couldn't explain it. She had no history of heart disease, but the stress, the fear, it had taken its toll. And then the demons started targeting Jack and Janet directly, in ways I can barely describe. One night, Jack was lying in bed next to Janet. He heard whispering, a woman's voice, right next to his ear. He turned to his wife. But Janet was asleep, and then he felt it. Something cold touched his face, invisible fingers running down his cheek. He looked down at Janet and saw a shadowy figure crouched on her legs. He shouted. The figure disappeared, but from that night on, things got worse. Janet woke up one night to find she couldn't move, completely paralyzed, and then she felt hands on her, touching her. Violating her, she tried to scream. Couldn't. Jack was right next to her, fast asleep. She couldn't wake him. The attack lasted several minutes. And then, it stopped. She could move again. She woke Jack, told him what happened. He didn't want to believe her. Until it happened to him. Jack was watching a baseball game one evening. Alone in the living room, everyone else was upstairs, and then he was attacked by what demonologists call a succubus, a female demon that sexually assaults men. Jack was a devout Catholic, a modest man. He was humiliated, ashamed, but he told Janet, and that's when they both realized this wasn't just a haunting, this was a demon, and it wanted to destroy their family. By 1986, the Smurls were desperate. They'd contacted priests. Nobody believed them. The Catholic Church wanted proof. They'd contacted psychologists. They were told it was stress, hallucinations, brain problems. And then Janet heard about Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren were the most famous paranormal investigators in the world. They'd investigated the Amityville horror case, the Annabelle doll, hundreds of hauntings and possessions. Ed was a demonologist, one of only 7 in the United States at the time. Lorraine was a clairvoyant medium. She could see and communicate with spirits. January 1986, the Warrens arrived at 328 Chase Street. They brought equipment, cameras, audio recorders, temperature gauges, and they brought a psychic nurse named Rosemary Frew. Before they even entered the house, Lorraine stopped. She turned to Janet and said, "There's something very powerful in there, and it doesn't want us here." The Warrens spent days investigating. They interviewed every family member, recorded hours of audio, took hundreds of photos, and Lorraine, she saw things. She told the Smurls that their house was home to 4 spirits. The first spirit was an elderly woman. Harmless, just a former resident who never left. The second was a young girl. Violent, angry. She was the one causing a lot of the noise and physical attacks. The third was a man who had died in the home. He was sad, restless, but not malicious. And the fourth entity was a demon. Lorraine said the demon was using the other 3 spirits, commanding them, manipulating them. Its goal was simple: destroy the Smurl family. Break their faith, ruin their marriage, turn them against each other, and if possible, kill them. Ed performed a provocation. He went into the master bedroom, invoked the name of Jesus, demanded the demon reveal itself. Within seconds, the room turned ice cold. A foul stench filled the air, like rotting flesh. Objects on the bureau started moving on their own. And then, Ed saw it. On the mirror, a mucus-like substance appeared. Smoky, gossamer threads. It began spelling out words. Obscene, filthy words. Cursing Ed, telling him to leave. Ed looked at Jack and said, "You have a very powerful demon in this house, and it's not going to leave easily." The Warrens recommended an exorcism, but the Catholic Church was reluctant. Exorcisms are serious, dangerous. The church needed proof. So a local priest, Father Robert McKenna, agreed to spend time in the house and observe. He stayed for 2 nights, and nothing happened. The house was quiet, peaceful, no activity at all. The priest left and told the Smurls, "I didn't see anything. I can't recommend an exorcism." But the Smurls knew the truth. The demon was hiding, waiting. It didn't want the church involved. So the Warrens arranged for a private exorcism, not officially sanctioned by the church but performed by a priest they trusted. The first exorcism was performed in early 1986. For hours, the priest prayed, commanded the demon to leave in the name of Jesus Christ. The house shook, voices screamed, furniture moved, and then silence. It worked for about a week, and then the activity started again. Worse than before, a second exorcism was performed. Same result, temporary peace. Then the demon returned. A third exorcism. Still, the demon refused to leave. The Warrens told the Smurls something that terrified them. They said, "This demon is attached to your family, not just the house. If you move, it will follow you." By August 1986, the Smurls were exhausted, financially drained, emotionally broken. They'd been living in terror for 12 years, and nobody believed them. So they made a decision that would change their lives forever. They went public. They contacted the media, told their story, and it exploded. CNN, CBS News, the New York Post. The National Enquirer reporters descended on Chase Street like a swarm. Hundreds of people showed up. Curiosity seekers, ghost hunters, skeptics, believers. The quiet street became a circus. The neighbors were not happy. Some were sympathetic. Others thought the Smurls were lying, faking it for attention, maybe even for money. Skeptics called them frauds, said it was all in their heads. Dr. Paul Kurtz, chairman of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, said the Warrens weren't objective investigators. He said the Smurls might be suffering from delusions, hallucinations. He suggested they needed psychiatric help, but Jack and Janet didn't care what people thought anymore. They just wanted help. In December 1986, a book was published. The Haunted, by Robert Curran, a newspaper writer who worked with the Smurls and the Warrens. It became a bestseller, and in 1991 a TV movie was made. Sally Kirkland played Janet Smurl. The story was everywhere, but the haunting continued. In 1987, 14 years after moving in, the Smurls finally left 328 Chase Street. They couldn't take it anymore. They moved to another town, a new house, a fresh start. For a few weeks, everything was quiet. Maybe it was over. Maybe the demon stayed at the old house. And then they saw it, the black mass, in their new home, standing in the hallway. Watching them, the Warrens had been right. The demon had followed them. Jack and Janet were devastated. They'd given up everything, left their home, started over, and the nightmare came with them. Strange noises started. Objects moved. The foul smells returned. It was happening all over again. The Smurls reached out one final time. They begged the Catholic Church for help, official help, and this time, the church agreed. In 1989, 15 years after the haunting began, the Catholic Church performed a fourth and final exorcism. This one was different. It was officially sanctioned, performed by multiple priests, and kept completely secret. Details of what happened during that exorcism have never been released. The church doesn't discuss exorcisms publicly. It's against their policy. But whatever happened in that room, it worked. The haunting stopped completely. No more voices, no more black masses, no more attacks. The Smurl family was finally free. Jack and Janet lived quietly after that. They avoided the media, refused interviews. They just wanted to live normal lives. In 2017, Jack Smurl passed away. He was 74 years old. Janet and their 4 daughters, now adults, still live near West Pittston, Pennsylvania, and according to all reports, they have never experienced paranormal activity again. The demon is gone. So, what about the house? T8 330. Chase Street still stands in West Pittston. It's a private residence. People live there now. And here's the interesting part. The family who moved in after the Smurls, they reported absolutely no paranormal activity. Nothing. Not even a strange noise. So was the demon attached to the Smurls specifically, or did that final exorcism truly banish it forever? Nobody knows for sure, but one thing is certain. For 15 years, the Smurl family endured something that most people can't even imagine. They faced a demon, and they survived. That's the true story of the Smurl family haunting. One family, one demon. 15 years of terror. Ed and Lorraine Warren called it one of their most difficult cases. 4 exorcisms, countless prayers, national media attention, and in the end, faith won. If you want more true paranormal stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell and leave a comment telling me, do you believe the Smurl's story? Or do you think there's another explanation? The spiritual world is real. Demons are real. But so is the power of faith. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and remember, if something evil ever targets you, don't face it alone.